name is Charles Holder, and one of the owners of the lodge, SP Historic Lodge. We came from California, raised in Arizona, Phoenix, and went in the Army and got to see the world, and good stuff and bad stuff both. And then was out in California, got a job offer, got out of the service, and then worked out there for a number of years in environmental, clean up all these different environmental sites, which is everywhere, big super fun sites. And we made a deal on this place here and came to rehab it to try to get it up to speed so it wouldn't just be demolished and go away. We didn't know at the time, when we bought it, we just bought it as a project for me to keep busy, because I had to, after quite a few heart attacks, 27, I had to find a way to slow down, which is difficult. So I made a deal on this and just started rehabbing it. And we had people come in, we find history all the time, people that know the history, some locals. One gentleman was in his over 100 years old. He had a lot of rich history. None of it is really in the record. Some of it is. But this used to, the freeway the road right next to us here used to be the freeway. And this town is like the movie Cars. As soon as 10 went in, the place started to dry up. And a lot of places closed down. But it's a big farming community. We got a big rail spur here for cattle to be shipped off and other things. Amtrak used to stop here. But over time, everything closed up. But the professor pulled out articles, still waiting on him to send us stuff, because I like to have proof of things that is told to us. We can put it on the wall, showing where John Wayne was here. Of course, didn't do many movies in Texas, Alamo and stuff like that. But some about movie clips that the professor was saying, which I never knew it. I mean, as children, we used to collect comic books and trade comic books. What turns out in the movie industry, from what he was saying, they share and sell and trade movie clips. And so a lot of movie clips in this part of the region, used in different westerns and things of that nature. Elvis had some information. He stayed in room 2. Apparently, from what he was saying, it was broken down. Who retrieved him, we don't know. Friendly family, friends. So he was here, and then there's some massacres happened here in the Old West. One of the generals his group command was attacked, and just a lot of rich history. And so as we remodeled this place, finding unusual things, found an old a room that was hidden, wasn't much in it, some old clothes, Time magazine, surprisingly enough, with articles about the president. It was John F. K. And so that was interesting. Some old jars. One of the original old STP cans was in a wall when I was pulling the bathroom, down to repair it, remodel it, which is tough to do to keep it historic. It's also a spike town where the two railroads came together, similar to the Golden Spike. But one of the spikes are different here. They were all collected up, and there's little memorial plaques on them. And those spikes, of course, are in Austin at the Capitol. But a lot of fun stuff. We have a nice museum across the street, and they're working on that. Historical Society is. And we also have a little museum, had the history of this town, Sierra Blanca, this township, right across from the judge's office at the courthouse, which is very historic. And movie theater across the street, one of the last Adobe United Artists movie theaters that's still standing. And of course, the courthouse is Adobe also, and very, very old structure. It's interesting to see the old construction versus the newer construction, trying to mimic the old styles, just to keep it preserved from collapsing, because it's been around for a long time. This place here, which has been through a number of names, White Cloud, different names, was completed in 1939, although it was here before then, and then rock over top of the adobe from some famous architect. That's why the walls are so thick, which is a challenge for modern day stuff. Of course, there's not much electrical in the rooms. They didn't need electricity back then for light. A plug in the bathroom for shavers. They didn't have much electrical stuff. Some old-fashioned phonographs were here and rehab. Our idea is to get people to relax and decompress. So we didn't have TVs at first. We had phonographs and old-fashioned radios and had a selection of 33s and different records from the play. But it was a big failure. People, modern day, they have to have their TVs and conveniences. So that was hard. Finding tile has been kind of tough. This is hand-painted glazed Indian tile from some of the natives out of Mexico, some of the Indian groups, tribes. Finally found some. Can't go over there right now because the area is pretty torn up with cartel. But when it quiets down, I'll take a truck over and pick up a couple of pallets of tile, the original tile, to replace some newer modern grits and grits that I had to put in to rehab it temporarily until I can find the original stuff, which I have now. Just have to pick it up and put it in. But it is a rich history. It is being preserved now. A number of people take photos, and some of the artists from Marfa and areas like that are coming here and doing a lot of artistic stuff, drawings and paintings of some of those structures while they're still standing. And other people coming in and starting to rehab. Good and bad. The town's going to grow very rapidly, especially after President Trump was tweeting about Sierra Blanca, which didn't understand why at first, and President Biden had a couple of things, but they discovered a large amount of rare earth minerals in a mountain about 14 miles from here called Round Top. And so we're starting to see that's being developed right now, so we can get the rare earth minerals that we need, so some independence from other areas in the world, including China, where we get the rare earth minerals from for microelectronics. And so I'm seeing investors hanging around. They're trying to fit in, that make it look like they're from Texas with big, huge cowboy hats and big rodeo buckles and stuff. And the guy was wearing a Submariner, and so I knew he wasn't from here. So I went and talked to him. They came clean. They said they were from Back East Investment Group, looking to get an infrastructure on the cheap. And they were a lot of interest in the movie theater, but they can't do anything with that except for rehab it because it's a historical structure, so it can't be torn down. It's protected. But they're going to have to get a lot of infrastructure put in to support the mine. So we'll get grocery stores again, and other amenities which we need. Hardware store would be nice. I'm rehabbing a speakeasy that's in the basement underneath this. I'm treating it right now, getting it ready for reconstruction. One of the last things I have to do here to open it back up. This is a pretty famous speakeasy of its day, and get that back to original. So I'm getting photos of different places on that so I can put it back the way it was originally. It also had, which was unusual, in that speakeasy, it had some saloon doors, so I'll put those back up. I just try to make it the way it was so people can enjoy it. Make this more a museum than just a motel or lodge. We're the largest counties in Texas, but we're like this township here, Sierra Blanca. It's not incorporated. We have a few cities like Del City and stuff that is, but we're not. We don't get the funding that a lot of other cities get out here. So you have to do it yourself. Our well went built it many years ago, but we have a well that belongs to Hudspeth County that happens to be in Culberson County, and agreements between Hudspeth and Culberson. We are now in control of that well. So the water gets pumped in Culberson County, which is Van Horn, and is piped back to Sierra Blanca to fill our tanks, to keep the community going. Now water's here is extremely deep. To put just a domestic well in, you're looking at over $100,000, so it's not going to happen. A commercial well, much bigger well, you're talking about millions of dollars to put that well in. And the community just doesn't have those kind of funds at this time. But we'll get it here. The mining operation will be using water, but the water they have up there is very brackish, it's not consumable. It's just been a small fortune to clean it, but they don't need fresh water to do what they're going to be doing, the leachate process and mining. And so they'll be into their own, so they won't affect our water sources here unless they do something which I don't see why. Do injections into the ground, which that's not part of the protocol, is not part of the permit process. They can't do any of that, so they can take some of this water out that we can't really use anyway. It's getting rid of overlays in order to cut the overall government costs. Government wasn't meant to be the largest employer. Unfortunately, they are, the federal government. But combining agencies, there's too much overlap. So you have somebody here making, hundreds of thousands a year and not really doing the work because other agencies are doing the work. And so they had to break all that up and start combining these different groups together. And so we don't have so much overlap. Some overlap is good as far as watchdog. One agency keeping another agency straight, to a point. But too much money is being wasted on a lot of things. And they're going after, right now, a lot of people's heard they're going after monies, the penny, it's going to be the nickel. When it costs, 2 or 3 times to make that penny, then it makes sense to get rid of the penny because, it's causing havoc because they're people having to redo their programs to deal with roundup, round down. That's where the feds is behind the ball, from what I heard last. They're coming up with some protocol for that. As far as where do we round up, round down to minimize lawsuits. We're in a sue-happy country so they can get these computer programs up to speed so people get appropriate change. I don't know where that's going to end up. I know they'd like to, and I don't agree with going completely cashless. Too many people, that's how they work. Too many people don't have access to, fancy cards and as far as Visa cards. And they can't even get bank accounts. And so how are they going to survive? And so to go cashless to me, doesn't make any sense. That's not my background, so I can't say why they're trying to do this and go all digital currency. I've lived cash and carry my whole life and used to it. They put a dollar limit up, but these shops you buy a gold coin, it's being reported to the federal government that he has that much gold or that much silver, and that part can be controlled with digitized currency. You can flip a switch and your money's gone. You can't do that if you have cash in a mattress or hidden in a wall someplace. And so it ultimately comes down to control. They just try to control things in Mexico, so they got rid of, made it illegal to have firearms in Mexico unless you're the military, or I guess the cartel these days. They're better armed than the military. And so the people can't protect themselves. If you get that much control, fortunately we have the Constitution, as long as we don't let it erode away. And it's that little thing, take little bites here and there. People don't complain about a little bite. But eventually that little bite turns into a big bite, and you lose some of your constitutional rights. And so you can modify the Constitution that way slowly. How to fix it? It is a beast, and I'm not sure what the answer is going to be in the long run. But people need to get better prepared for themselves also. Now, I'm on the ESD here, the Emergency Services District for ESD 2. And so we can control health and safety between the fire trucks and the ambulances, and to deal with these kind of emergencies, all kinds of emergencies. Everybody has emergency disaster plans, what to do in a major emergency, whether it's a tornado, hurricane, or whatever earthquakes, whatever it might be. But people need to also help prepare themselves and have enough food, water, something called a life straw, which most of them are pretty good. There's some that just makes the water look good and taste good, but doesn't really filter out any of the harmful items. Should have one for every family member. So if you can't get water, have some rain. hitting the street, go down, you can suck it up with a life straw and you have water. Fresh, clean water to keep yourself alive. But people aren't prepared. They don't have enough food, which doesn't take much. Amino acids, starches, rice and beans, with a good mineral and some vitamins. And it's going to get boring, but you can survive for short term on it. But most people, they shop daily. A lot of people shop daily for their food, unless they have a family, and they might shop by the week. Very few people you see shopping by the month and stock things away for an emergency. You can't count on the government to do it all for you. In a major emergency, the government will get control again, but it could take a while to get FEMA or to get your different agencies, Red Cross, or others out to provide assistance. It can take a while. Look how long it took to get there with Katrina. It takes a while to get on site, get things done. And there was a huge amount of waste and all that stuff. I bought a bunch of MREs that came from the disaster in Houston. They were picking up cases and cases of MREs, that's meals ready to eat. That would FEMA just dumped in dumpsters and they were just everywhere. It's just such a waste, it's a shame. I bought a bunch of those at $1 a piece just to put them up for emergencies. Everybody should have enough to supply for emergency. And so there's a lot of watchdog groups out there that pretty much makes people follow the written word. Now, you'll always have corporate greed and things you're going to have to deal with, and it's massive because bottom line, profit and loss. I fought that for years in health and safety. You need to get protective clothing, better engineering controls, and it all depends on how much money it costs. And so I had to show them the cost-benefit analysis of following the written word, because it's some of the very stringent fines, which can be daily. OSHA has means to fine you a fine, say a willful, and that can be multiplied by 10, and that can be per day. And so fines can be massive, take away all the profits. So there's a reason for companies to comply. Now here there's going to be a lot of money involved. We're already seeing they already submitted and working on, I think they have approval on one of them, a letter of agreement and with the federal government, because they're going to be the biggest purchaser of most of this stuff. Then it's going to be your major corporations, because they needed to continue operations. When they have things pull back or fights with other countries where we get this stuff from, China being one of them, and they don't ship that stuff, you see what happened with COVID, you see what happened after that with a fight between, they didn't like tariffs and stuff. They start bringing back or cutting back on supplies that we need for this nation, and all of a sudden things get really, really tight. You have manufacturers going out of business because they can't keep producing products that we need. Your cell phone will go up to thousands and thousands of dollars if they cut back, if they even have the small cell phones anymore. They have to go back to phones that most people don't even remember, a bag phone, the big brick phones, because electronics was larger. And so it's pretty heavy. You're not going to have a little phone to put in your pocket if you don't have rare earth minerals. A lot of things is tied to it. Just like oil, major pollution source is that before we had the U.S. Air Force, the Air Corps was controlled by the Army. It was the Army Air Corps. And a group comes in, they meet in Tucson every year, old pilots and family of the pilots, and some of the modern day pilots, his family was in the Army Air Corps. And we found out from one of them, and there's articles about it, but they dropped bombs accidentally on Sierra Blanca, training bombs, getting ready for combat. And three or four, I think, here in Sierra Blanca. One hit a gas station over here, one hit the tracks, took the tracks out, so they had to get those rebuilt, put back in again. And you don't hear a lot about that kind of stuff. There's happened in a few places in the United States, and this is one of them. But other areas, they celebrate it and have a big festival to bring income and stuff into their small towns. But for some reason, they don't do anything here with that. It's like they just don't want people to know. And I don't know why. You can't keep small forever. You have to, just move on with your surroundings, what's going on. And it is coming around. It is starting to build back up again pretty quick with investors and looking at the property. And rare earth minerals, huge deposits in this mine over here that they're getting ready to open up. I think they'll be fully open in just a few years, 2-3 years. Permits all in place, which is my concern as a aerospace engineer, is if they do it right, it's going to be a great thing for the country and a good thing for the community. If they go sideways with it, which can happen, it can, because of profit and loss money, it's always about the bottom line. It could also be a Superfund site, which concerns me. So that's a little difficult. I have to try to keep as much track of that as I can to make sure that doesn't happen. And there's enough people in town, including our Judge JoJo McKenzie. She's very knowledgeable with all those kind of things, including emergency things dealing with the Red Cross and other stuff. Very, very in tune judge, which is coming up for election again here shortly. Hopefully she gets in. It's good for the community, and with this mining going in, we're going to need all the support we can to make sure they follow the written word, what they've published and submitted to air, water, EPA, to get that going good, so help financially with the town, with infrastructure and other things. Our high school, which is an interesting school. Part of the studies were, I guess, completed or funded through Mr. Bezo from what the project manager, he's gone now, is from university. He was a geologist, finished up some old studies of the mines here, and because they knew about the rare earth minerals that were discovered. And they're doing, just last week, pilots were here doing aerial surveillance and recon mapping, aerial mapping of the different structures that's out there. Some is because of the rare earth minerals. Probably most of it is. That's where the funding's coming from. But I know the USA Rare Earth, which is now 80% owner of the operation, and then from there they have investors that, of course, will have certain percentages. But Texas Mineral Resources, TMRC on the exchange, is the one that eventually had it and finished up the studies, and then of course sold it. That's what they do. He's looking for rare earth minerals, and so it's going to be a good thing. But like I had mentioned, there's also some bad players in there, beryllium, but it's all doable. It's just a matter of following the written word. With air control of your air as much as you can, making sure you have enough fallout of the minerals and stuff, the dusts, and so they don't reach anybody that they can expose. Beryllium's a nasty player, and you don't want to be exposed to it. But technology-wise, it's tried and proven technology, leachate process to extract the minerals. And then the liquid will go off to different places, including Stillwater, Oklahoma, which is a part of the overall process. They'll be making magnets that we need for electric motors, for what's going on with electric cars and big manufacturing use a lot of electric motors, and so it's called a mine-to-magnet on that part of it, which will make all this stuff. The mine, from what we've been told, and some of the drawings I saw, bootleg drawings, it's going to be a green energy mine, which is great environmentally. Glad to see that. So they won't make a major footprint in the process of the mining operation. So it sounds great. I haven't taken a tour up there in a long time, so I'm not sure exactly where they're at. But it'll be wonderful for the whole country. As long as we make sure that it doesn't cause damage to the infrastructure here and the long-term environmental issues. You're always going to have short-term stuff you just have to deal with on a daily basis for control measures. But other than that, it'd be good for everybody. As a nation, I see people coming together, and whenever President Trump has done some things as far as pulling out of certain environmental accords and things of that nature, but it'll all come back around. Everything goes full circle. So it all comes back around, and we'll have to get back online again. It has to be global. One nation can't say we're going to clean up the environment. It's not possible. It takes the entire world. Our oceans are at critical points in a number of areas, and people need to realize if the oceans go, we go. We have to have the oceans, and they have to be clean and safe. And that's going to have to be global. If people take out there and dump incredible amounts of pollution to the oceans, and that has to be stopped. Tie in more criminal fines, not just civil penalties. If you don't do that, then it's not going to ever stop. Because if you have a fine of, say, $1 million, and you're saving $3 million by not doing it right, just dumping it in the ocean, or some poor farmer's back 40, so to speak, in another country, it's not going to stop. So a lot of criminal prosecution has to go along with that. And they are doing some of that. They started doing it a number of years ago. So it will, hopefully we don't reach a tipping point where it's too late. And so we have to, any new operations like this mine, we just have to make sure that they get involved. And it does affect the valuation of stock. If they start having issues, too many complaints, for instance, then it will affect their stock prices. And you start affecting stock prices, you start getting things done. And so that's one of the hammers that the civilian side has against some of the big corporations, is things that may affect their stock, which is how they make their money. So, but I appreciate it.